We could be down to 5 teams left, or we could be looking at as many as 3 Game 7s to determine the conference finals. Hey everybody, it's Playoff Central Live, presented by State Farm. Good to have you with us. I'm Matt Weiner. The Hall of Famer Isaiah Thomas is standing by. He'll be with us shortly. But first, that riveting Celtics-Bucks series is back in Milwaukee tonight for Game 6, which means Stephanie Reddy is back in Milwaukee with it and with us here on Playoff Central Live. Hey, Stephanie, we're joking. You've got the best series. This has been wildly entertaining along the way. Let's get an update on who's available and injuries for tonight, first and foremost.
Absolutely. Hey there, Matt. And it's no joke. This is the best series. Of course, I'm on it. Let's get you the injury update. So Robert Williams originally was listed as questionable this morning. He has now been officially ruled out. Ime Udoka did shed some light, though, on that knee. Remember, it was the same knee that was surgically repaired, that left meniscus. So we thought that this maybe was a byproduct of that recovering from the surgery because there was swelling and some pain and soreness and limited range of motion. Well, we found out today that, in fact, it is structurally sound. There's nothing wrong with that surgery recovery. It was due to a collision with Giannis Antetokounmpo, and he now officially has a bone bruise. He still, though, is day-to-day. They'll continue to monitor that knee and see how he responds. On the other side, Chris Middleton is still out. Head coach Budenholzer said nothing new to report. He's progressing nicely. They don't know when he will return to action. And then here's a late scratch for you that was unexpected. Scott Foster and the officiating crew is out for tonight's game due to a non-COVID related illness.
That is the rare officiating injury update from Stephanie Reddy. Very thorough. This has been such a physical and mental grind already. And for Boston, it is tough to bounce back after leading by 6 in Game 5 with under 2 minutes to go and lose that game. Where are the Celtics' heads right now?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, Matt, because this series has been so closely contested. It's been so physical, and both teams are reveling in it. They love the physicality. They love the high-level defense on both sides. So what it's going to come down to for the Boston Celtics is that they need to execute. Ime Udoka said just moments ago, those last several possessions, maybe they didn't go as scripted, maybe they didn't get to run the plays they wanted to, but the execution needs to be there. He said there was nobody to blame, especially not Marcus Smart. He said we all take a little bit of part in that failure, so expect them to try to be a lot crisper for a lot longer.
Well, as you might expect, the 2 biggest names in the series, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Jason Tatum, each have their fingerprints all over this series and all over Game 5. Giannis had his second 40-point game of the series. Tatum went for 34. What are the respective priorities for each tonight?
Great question, Matt. You know, I think with both teams, because they stress defense so much, both of their stars are required to play a lot more defense than you might see other teams focus that on. Giannis prides himself on his defensive efforts, but he also prides himself on playing complete basketball games. I've heard him say several times, but most recently in this series, he doesn't feel like he's given it his all unless he's completely banged up. And when I asked him about that after the last game, because remember he had the blood situation, he kind of laughed. You know, he said, hey, this has been a tough one. It's hard fought, and they love it. I think for Giannis, his key is going to be to try to make his baskets as easy as possible. Conversely, the Boston Celtics are going to try to make it as hard as possible. So I think for the Bucks, you're going to want to see Giannis get the ball in the paint, even if it's not on the block, but in the paint, the elbow area a lot more without having to put the ball on the floor and dribble through lots of defense. For Tatum, his key is going to be aggressive on the offensive end consistently through the game. And I don't mean just getting up more shots. I just mean pushing the tempo, getting out on transition, yes, being aggressive, looking for his own shot, but also creating shots for others.
Yeah, he hasn't always done that in this series. He's only taken 7 shots in clutch situations in the 3 games the two have played so far. It'll be interesting to see what his approach is if this is close as we would expect later on tonight. All right, Stephanie, one more question, and I'll be honest, I was a little lazy on the question, but you'll get my point. 2 words, Drew Holiday. What you got?
Yes. Well said, Matt. Concise. I love it. Drew Holiday is everything that a coach dreams about, okay? I remember when I was coaching, he's like the prototypical player if you were going to create one in the lab somewhere. He's big, he's strong, he's athletic, not just big and strong, right? He can get up and down. He's extremely intelligent, makes all the right decisions on both offense and defense. Coach Budenholzer is one of those coaches that lets his team read, not just offensively like you see a quarterback or a point guard typically do, reading the different reads and the options. He lets them read on defense, and you can only do that if you have a player like Drew Holiday, who's so intelligent. He very, very rarely makes a mistake, and we saw that at the end of the game. He had two key plays, right? The one where he blocks the shot, keeps possession of the basketball, and then throws it off of Marcus Smart to retain possession for his team, and then the steal in the open court. He's just so good. I mean, he knows what to do. He knows when his team needs him the most, and he's so confident. It doesn't matter if he goes into what we might call a shooting slump. He knows that he can still knock down jumpers, and his teammates and his coaches have the ultimate faith in him.
Yeah, percentages aren't great shooting-wise, but remember he hit one of the two big threes when the Bucks were down 6 to tie it up at 105. Stephanie Reddy with us from Milwaukee. Right. Enjoy it tonight. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Matt. Good to see you.
All right, Stephanie Reddy with us from Milwaukee. She has got the series of the playoffs so far. This has been so good. I want to get your thoughts on Drew Holiday as an executive, as a coach, as a teammate. What kind of a luxury is it to have someone who not only physically can play the game, but thinks the game the way we've seen him do?
I mean, from an executive point of view, you know, when he arrived in Milwaukee, you knew that you was getting somebody who was trustworthy. So from an executive standpoint, you're saying, okay, if I'm going to pay a guy a lot of money, I want to make sure he shows up. I want to make sure he's on time, he's professional, and he does all the right things. So here defensively, what we're seeing is a great defender. And what I like to point out about him is that, you know, he knows how to make plays, but he makes them, you know, with his left hand. You know, Matt, most people who are guarding great shooters or guarding great players, right-hand shooter, a lot of times you see him challenging right hand.
Yep.
Right hand, that, you know, the right hand's coming this way and the right hand's shooting that way. What Drew Holiday does, he uses his left hand. So you saw the left hand block, you saw the left hand steal. That takes his body away from the contact. So therefore, he's able to get the left hand block on the right hand shooter, his body's out of the way, and then he's got a left hand steal coming up, his body's out of the way. That is, you know, just perfectly timed technique executed, and you know he brings all those things to the table on the defensive side. But again, as an executive and coach, you got somebody that you can trust.
Definitely some chess versus checkers element of his game in terms of the way he thinks it. All right, what's Boston going to have to do tonight to extend this series, get a Game 7 back on their home floor?
You know, I know we talk a lot about Tatum and Brown, but the difference makers in this series to me has been Horford. You know, the way he plays and the way he goes tonight will be the difference in terms of winning and losing for the Celtics. You know, he's been spectacular. He's played offensively better in this series than we've seen him play in several years. His three-point shot making, his rebounding, his defense, everything has been spectacular. Can he rise to that level again tonight on the road? Because if he plays that well again on the road, the Celtics have a chance to win. But to me, he's the key tonight.
Got to be great defensively against Giannis. He's had some good moments against him as well. We want you to answer the question, by the way, will the Celtics force Game 7? Let us know what you think. Jason Tatum's, his aggression has waned back and forth offensively in this series. If it's close late, I know you don't want him to force shots, but he's your best player. What will you need from him?
Well, you need him to have a big scoring game out on the road, you know, because the thing we know about Giannis and the Bucks, they're going to play well at home, and their championship medal is going to show up. They know how to close, and they're coming to close. So offensively, you need your three best scorers to really show up tonight. Tatum, Brown, and Horford really got to have big games.
All right, the winner of this series will face the Heat, who are in the Eastern Conference Finals for the second time in 3 years after finishing off Philadelphia last night. And no disrespect, as good as Miami has been, especially defensively, they've been elite in the playoffs so far. A lot of the reaction last night and today has been focused on the 76ers, who for the second straight postseason, I think it's fair to say, couldn't seem to muster up enough fire or focus, sort of inexplicably. What do you make of what you saw from Philly?
Well, we saw that the process didn't work.
Is it
right?
still a process, or are we still in the process?
Yeah, and you know, and this is, you know, and this is, so historically we'll see that whatever these 5-6 year plans were, okay, they don't work.
Right.
Now when you look at